blastmusic247.com. We're changing the industry one artist at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to According to Courtney. If this is your first time here, I'm Courtney West. I'm a full spectrum doula, host, prenatal educator, and a birthing nerd all the way around. And welcome to According to Courtney. On According to Courtney, we discuss everything from health and wellness, how to fill your cup, sex, birth, and everything in between. And today, I'm really excited about my guest today because we're talking about a subject that a lot of people, believe it or not, don't know a lot about, and that's health insurance. Many times in this country, especially now, a lot of people do not know how to have health insurance or understand the benefits of what health insurance can really do for you, or even how to get it, or if it's affordable. So with my guest today, I'm super excited to have her, and she is going to explain how you can get health insurance, what are good benefits of health insurance, and things that we just don't know about. So I'm excited to bring her into the space.
Hi, Courtney. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. Hi. So I always start out the show asking the same three questions. So what is your name and the origin of your name? Where are you from and your people are from? And then what information do you want to leave in the space today?
My name is Samantha Browning. I'm not sure what the origin of my name is, but what I'd like to leave is just to give people a better understanding of what the marketplace is, what it has to offer, and how you could utilize that to benefit you.
I love that. And then Samantha, where are you from?
I am from here, St. Pete, Florida.
Yay. See, St. Pete moves a little different. We just have to always throw that out there.
Yeah.
I love it. So Samantha, tell me a little background about yourself. How long have you been working in health insurance?
I've been working in health insurance for about 5 years now. I started out as an agent on the phones, as many people traditionally do. And then I moved into being an independent broker after a few years, once I learned the industry a little better.
That's amazing. And Samantha's absolutely, I have to throw out the shout out. It's absolutely amazing with insurance. When I didn't know what I was doing and having questions about insurance, I realized how refreshing it is to be able to go to someone and learn it. And Samantha, hands down, helped us out so much in my family. And so I wanted to share her information and her expertise with all of you guys. So Samantha, can you really break down for people why is it important to have insurance in the first place?
Oh, our bodies are our temple, right? So we have to feed that. And to feed that, that means we have to see a doctor, and we have to have access to healthcare. So without insurance, access to healthcare can be nearly impossible. So what the Affordable Care Act does, or the marketplace insurance, it's designed to help people who fall in this middle place where maybe traditional insurance through an employer isn't offered, or you may be transitioning from employment to another employer, and a transitional insurance may be a little expensive. So that's where the marketplace plays a crucial role.
I love that. So I wanted to get into that because a lot of people don't understand what marketplace insurance is really, and what they'll hear about it. Because I've asked around when I knew I was going to have you as a guest. They're like, about health insurance. I was like, okay, do you know about marketplace? They're like, well, not really. What is that? They know it as, and it's usually in a derogatory term, Obama insurance. It's like, oh, is that Obama insurance stuff? I was like, no, there's more to that, and I would love for you to be able to go over like some of the benefits of using this type of insurance.
There is. So, and I've heard the term Obamacare used in the past as well. This is an insurance that is based on your income.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you make a little too much money to have Medicaid, and your employer may not offer insurance. That's where the marketplace plays a crucial role. In fact, I have a client who was on marketplace insurance, transitioning between employers, and he had a heart attack. And he had a very good policy. So that policy ended up covering everything that he needed. But had he not had insurance, then that would have been a considerable amount of medical bills.
Absolutely.
So a little more about it is there's a lot of, I say, misguided approaches to explaining the marketplace. And a lot of people receive phone calls saying, we're going to give you a $6,000 stimulus, or we're going to give you something for signing up for, health insurance through the marketplace. And yes, there is a subsidy that assists in reducing the cost of the monthly premium.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a subsidy that goes into your pocket necessarily. And that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on in this interview, is explaining how that subsidy works so that nobody is misled.
Yes, I think that's really important that I've gotten phone calls like that. Oh, well, I can give you $8,000 or this and that. And I'm like, how do you know what you can give me and that I don't have insurance? I never understood what that even meant. So yes, please break that down for us.
Right. So the subsidy is it's a sliding scale, or sometimes I explain it as a teeter-totter. So think about your starting employment. You have a bonus structure that goes with your employment. So you're going to make a base salary, and I'm going to just keep a round salary of $20,000.
Okay.
And then you report your income to the marketplace, which reduces your monthly premium down to $0.
Okay.
And then at the end of the year, you ended up with bonuses. So now you made $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't realize that. But you used your entire subsidy to reduce that monthly premium down to $0. The marketplace then recaptures a little of that from your taxes. They recapture a percentage of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to have an agent broker who can adjust or modify your income so that you are in a place where you may not owe too much at the end of the year.
Okay. Is there a way to not owe at the end of the year when it comes to your insurance?
There is, and that's if you're using that perfect amount of subsidy.
Okay.
So if, let's say, your income is at $20,000, but in October you realize, oh my gosh, I've made so much more. October's open enrollment, and because you've made more than you initially signed up for, you can adjust your premium payment. So think about every other week you may pay for insurance at a traditional employer.
Mm-hmm.
Marketplace is the same thing. It's a monthly premium, and you would just reduce that subsidy and pay a little more. So that payment may be a difference of $20.
Okay.
So you can adjust your income so that you don't owe at the end of the year.
That's really good to know. So I want to ask you, what are some of the little known perks that come with having insurance?
So carrier by carrier, each insurance offers different benefits. So without pulling out a carrier, I can give an example. Let's say you sign up for insurance company A. And insurance company A has a program that if you sign on to their app and you walk 5,000 steps a week, they may give you an amount on like a little flex spending card. And you can use this at your doctor's offices. You can use this for your prescription drugs. You can use this for over-the-counter medicines.
Oh, wow.
They depending on the insurance carrier are the perks that are offered. But it's important to highlight because a lot of times when you get phone calls, this is it's given in a different way. So it's important to highlight that the benefits from the carriers are typically not cash back in your pocket. They're items you can buy. Some carriers may even send like a little catalog with things you can order.
Okay. And what are like things in this catalog? Because I know that some insurances will offer you like points at Walgreens or something so you can get, toothpaste or deodorant or things that you need for the household. So things you would normally spend money on, you can use your flex monies for those.
It's the same idea. It's like a mail order.
Okay.
But some of the other perks as well are the telehealth and the 24-hour access to nursing care.
Oh, wow.
Those, depending on your carrier, they offer, instead of having to go in to a doctor, you can sit like we are on our phones and see your doctor or call a nurse at any time.
See, and I think that's really helpful for people to know that they can have that benefit because, if you're having issues with transportation or being able to get into a doctor or, some people who are used to who are being uninsured are always having to run to the emergency room for things that can be handled right in the comfort of your own house.
Right.
That's really actually awesome. And something that people should really think about considering is like, I hear a lot of times that people think that, they can't afford insurance. And that's the main reasoning why people I know don't get it. They're like, it costs too much through my job. It's not feasible. And they think, and I think this is a common misconception, that they think because they cannot afford it through their jobs, that they automatically just make too much to get marketplace insurance.
Right. And I've run into that a lot throughout my time in insurance. And there's an on marketplace and then there's an off. It's called the exchange. So if you feel like you make too much to be on marketplace insurance, you can go off the exchange and you can have a private policy. But what I like people to understand is that when I say ACA insurance, that doesn't necessarily mean it's any less than something that's not ACA. These are all the same carriers. So, if you think of in healthcare, you have like the big names, right? Like the Baycare, HCA. But the names of the hospitals are different. So it works the same kind of way. I hope I explained that well enough in insurance, where you might have a big name without me saying a big name, but there's smaller companies that represent. So it's on and off exchange, but it's still the same insurance. It's just as, I don't want to say as good, but it's true. Marketplace insurance is equivalent to private insurance. It can be equivalent to employer insurance, depending on the coverage you qualify for.
Okay. So qualifications, can anyone get health insurance?
Well, yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, absolutely. Anybody qualifies for health insurance. However, if you have an employer that offers an employer-sponsored coverage that is more beneficial than what you may qualify on the marketplace side, then any agent would, of course, say, go with your employer.
Okay.
Because you're getting a better coverage with a lower deductible. And that's what really stands out with the marketplace is sometimes people will see those high deductibles and think, oh my gosh, how can I ever have this scan if I have this $9,000 deductible?
Mm-hmm.
But there are products sold, they're called auxiliary products, and they're sold for as little as $2 a month to $17 a month to $50 a month, where you can pick up a product that covers your deductible if an accidental happens. So it's an additional insurance.
Could you get a little bit more into that? Because I've never heard of that. So like, is that like I guess we don't want to name names. Like you'll see the quacking duck. Let's put it like that.
Yes.
Extra insurance. So is it kind of like that?
It is exactly like the duck. I represent the duck as well.
Okay.
So it is exactly like that, except there are products that you can sell in insurance that are for a group. And then there's individuals. So what I'm focused on is the individual. And it works the same that if I was to walk outside my home right now and fall and break my leg and go to the hospital, I have a product that would assist in my copay. Or if I went and had a typical mammogram, a CAT scan, and I found out I had cancer or if I had a stroke, there are products that cover those type of conditions. So for the first year or so, you don't have to worry about your deductibles.
Oh, wow. I think that's something that is just a lot of people don't understand or don't know. And I can say for myself, like, you don't think about these things until they happen.
Right.
And you're in it and you're like, whoa, I don't have any insurance, or I do have insurance, but I don't have enough insurance, and just kind of how to move in that. So knowing that they're having that option of the duck or other places, other ones, is really beneficial to people. Can I get insurance at any time? If I just like, hey, I need insurance right now, can I get it?
So typically you have to lose an insurance coverage, or you are going to lose insurance coverage to qualify when it's not open enrollment.
Okay.
So open enrollment starts in October, and then that's when anybody can enroll in insurance, or they can change their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But unless there's a special election period, like we have a hurricane, that would be a reason somebody may change their health insurance.
Okay.
Or again, if something happened with employment.
That makes sense. Okay. And that's good to know. And you've already talked about that health insurance doesn't have to be expensive. It's based off of what you can really afford.
Right.
Which is great. So having what can health insurance really do for a person? Like I say, okay, I have it. Because I know I hear a lot of times that people are like, I don't see the point of me paying insurance because it's me just throwing my money away.
Because you never know when something's going to happen, right? You never know when the unexpected is going to pop into your life. So you may have a policy that has a very large deductible, maybe a small monthly premium, but it's there in case something happens. So our bodies are unpredictable. We never know when, we have a really bad headache, but that headache is something much worse. And at any age, I think something unpredictable could happen, and that would be a reason you'd want to keep insurance. And if anything, we all get a cold.
True.
So sometimes, it costs money to go to a walk-in clinic or a doctor's office to get antibiotics. And these are things that you have access to if you have insurance.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about that a lot, because people talk about the cost of going to doctors and insurance and everything else. You spend more money when you're uninsured. I have been uninsured. I have carried insurance, and I can tell you the difference between having to pay everything out of pocket. So a doctor, if you have insurance, may only be like a $30 copay. Out of pocket may cost you $80. A medication that with insurance would be $5 may cost you $60 out of pocket. So I know, and I've seen that having benefits of having insurance can really make a difference on what you're really paying for when it comes to like your health care, or even if you have a family. So say I'm a family and I have a family of 5 people. Is there a way for me to be able to have affordable insurance with 5 people and say 4 of them are dependents?
Absolutely. And that, I'm going to call it a loaded question because I would go in 2 different directions on that.
Okay.
Sometimes we do have here in Florida, we have, even if you're working, we have programs that are designed for children, like the CHIP programs, those Florida Kid Care programs that may benefit your children more than being on a marketplace policy. But that's something that it's the insurance agent's job to design a policy for the insurer. So it's our job to say, what medical conditions have you had, if any? What medications do you take? What do you think might happen in a year? Like, how has your health been? Have you had health screenings? All of these are important questions to ask, and we design the policies based on the individual. So if your
Okay.
children have been going to the doctors, what about mom and dad? Have you had those screenings?
That's a good way to think about it. And it's good that people learn about that. Like, I know for my children, they have different policies, insurers, than I do, because it was more beneficial.
Right.
They've always had separate insurances because it ends up being more cost effective, and the benefits actually end up being better for the children than if they would have had my traditional insurance. They would have gotten less coverage or not the same amount of things that they are given. And I know, like, even just like kid insurance has those different perks. We get, I have a child that's asthmatic, so once a year it comes with her thing that she gets a coupon that she can get her carpets cleaned for her house. That's just one of the perks of having her type of condition with her health insurance. So there's a lot of different things with that. So what if someone you have people who want to plan to have a family? How would they go about picking insurance?
So you would look at each carrier. So if you're planning to have a family, it would be important to look at what prenatal is covered. So there are some policies that I've read that, there's a 50% coinsurance on them. So it's important to sit with an agent and explore your options.
So if you could you explain, because some people may not understand, what does coinsurance mean?
So a 50% coinsurance means if, let's say, you want to have an ultrasound and the insurance says, you know what, this isn't really needed, it's not necessary, then you would have to pay 50% of that. Sometimes it's not covered at all, and you would pay 15% or 50% of the amounts.
Okay. And I feel like that's really important for people to know. I know in my work, doing birth work, the main things I hear is like, I really want this coverage, but my insurance doesn't cover that. Or I really want to do this, but my insurance doesn't have it. And I always ask them, well, did you look at your insurance before you did family planning? Well, not really. It's like, okay, well, is that the best insurance for you to have if you're doing this? And they don't know. So I think one thing I would like to ask you, because like you said, you're an insurance agent and you do this, how do people get in touch with insurance agents? Because most of the time, as you've mentioned, we just hear someone call you on the phone and not really get the opportunity to sit down and have someone explain the things to you.
So that has become a true, and like I said, I started on the phones. It has truly, we've gone from the in-person insurance sale to a phone insurance sale. But we are all listed in the state of Florida database. So you could go to the DICE website and look for local insurance agents who work in a brick and mortar.
Okay.
So that you can go sit down with an agent and discuss what you need, especially for women. So I have to say, and you hit that with birth a little bit, is women tend to ignore their health.
Yes.
And they tend to sign up, and I've had a lot of women sign up for an insurance policy who maybe they didn't give me who their women doctors are. So it's important to have a list of your doctors when you do this so that you are still comfortable with your providers and you don't have to look for other providers.
Okay. That's really important because it's hard to find when, like, finding a good provider is like finding a good hairstylist or barber. Once you have them, you want to keep them as long as you can
Right.
and be able to, feel comfortable or feel seen through your person. So, one thing I would love for you to go over for people is the difference between like different types of insurances because people hear about HMOs and PPOs and then in network and out of network, not really understanding what that is or what that means. And they're just like, okay, I just picked it. So, well, why did you pick that? I don't know. They told me I had 2 days to pick it, so I just picked it.
Yeah. So with the marketplace kind of gives you one option. I mean,
Okay.
where it's an HMO, what I tell my beneficiaries is if we can't find you a doctor within your carrier, then we need to find another carrier.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is you're always going to look in that network. And you're going to look for the providers that take that insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So, if your insurance is ABC, you'll go to ABC's website, you'll pull up a map of all the doctors in the area, and then you'll call those doctors, especially if you need specialists.
Mm-hmm.
But on the marketplace, HMO is pretty much, well, they call it an EPO.
Okay.
Which is like it's a network. It's going to be a network on the marketplace. I mean,
Okay.
We're a little differently when you go into the employer's insurance or if we were talking like over 65. But for the average American, they're going to go to the website, ABC's website, and find your doctor.
Okay. And I think that's important that people touch on that. And I love you touched on that for our 65 and plus because our viewers are all different age ranges.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed sometimes with the elderly population, they've either had their old insurance or they don't have any. And the problem is why they don't have it is that they have no one to explain it to them and explain it in words and say phrases that they understand, or that piece of, I got to go find it myself.
Right. And that's so hard. And that is hard with the 65 and up, is the plans that they're put into. So, we have we have subsidies. We have Medicare Advantage plans.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure that that plan is tailored for the person that's sitting in front of us or, on the phone. You want to make sure when you're talking to somebody, they're tailoring your experience to you. They're asking you intrusive questions. I'm going to say they're a bit intrusive questions so that you feel like your plan is designed to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is what's most important. And you want to have their phone number so you call them and have them change directions if they need to. So if you're in the hospital and something happens, you should be able to call me and say, Samantha, I need X, Y, and Z. Do we have this in the network? Do I have access to it? What's going to happen? And I'm going to look and tell you exactly what's going to happen next. There's no surprises.
Ooh, I love that. So let me ask you this. What should us as consumers look for in an insurance agent?
Just that. You should look for an agent you have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's going to answer their phone and give you those next steps. Somebody who's going to ask you what doctors you want to see, who's going to show you your plan. So it's important to sit down and read those plans with your agent so you understand, okay, if I have a baby, I'm going to have to pay $9,000 to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What other options do we have? So I think that's what's most important, is not just allowing somebody to call you on the phone and jumping in and saying, yes, you can have all my information. You want to keep control of your own insurance like you control your body.
Ooh, I love that. And I think you've hit on a very interesting topic. Many people, as on the healthcare piece of it, don't feel like they do have control of their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel like they have to just go whatever is told to them. And so I think that's important for people to be like, okay, if you're going to take on charge of your bodies, charge of your health insurance. And by taking charge of your health insurance, it's taking charge of your health so you can get the things that you need. So with health insurance, there's sometimes things and benefits where people are looking for, like how to, like, nutritionists or mental health or things like that. If they decided to do with marketplace insurance, are these things available with this insurance?
So that made me smile. Mental health was one of the things addressed in the about 3 years, maybe it's been about 2 years now. Medicare and the Affordable Care Act is now covering access for mental health. And that's a beautiful thing. So this is for people over 65 and for people under 65. Everybody has access to mental health care through both Medicare and the Affordable Care Act now.
Oh, see, that's amazing, because a lot of times, even in private insurances, sometimes they'll cover that portion of your health, but your mental health was not being taken care of. You had to pay that out of pocket. And that, sometimes could be $200 a session. And most of us just cannot afford that.
Yes, and I believe this is Mental Health Awareness Month, so that's perfect that you touched on. Now everybody has access to their counselors, their psychologists.
That is so amazing and such a big change and so needed. So when you're sitting down with someone and you're talking about insurances, and because you talked about intrusive questions, and I want us to kind of go over that, because I would like to bring aware to, like, in the healthcare field, we have to ask you some personal questions, and we'll tell you up front they may feel a little intrusive, but we're asking you to give the best roundabout care for you. So could you go over some of these questions, so therefore people aren't alarmed when they go to sit down with their agent or hear an agent on their phone and they're asking them some of this stuff, and be like, whoa, this is normal questions to get.
Right. So I always ask, I first start out with, what medications do you take? And then I ask, do you see any specialists? And specialists being, that could be your gynecologist, it could be your urologist. But we have to know if you see any specialists. And then I ask for a provider list. So who do you see? And then I ask them, how is your health? Give me a little overview. And if you're great, if you're healthy, how many times have you been sick this year? So have you had any colds, flus? Have you had any x-rays? I ask women, have you been to a gynecologist? Have you had a mammogram? Especially with women. So I tend to dig a little deeper with women to make sure that they've had access to their woman's care.
Yes.
And it's really important, because we tend to put that aside. And I want to make sure, especially for a woman who's over 40, that they have access to have their mammogram.
Yes, I want you to go back into this, because we love everybody on this show, but we lean more towards the women in some aspects. And why is it important that you be going to the gynecologist and getting your mammograms? And what ages? Because you'll be real surprised. Many of people I have dealt with, even being on their 5th or 6th pregnancy, will tell you, I've never gone there. I just come in when I'm pregnant. I don't go and check that out on a regular. And the main reason why they don't, a lot of times, is that they only have health insurance when they're pregnant.
Right. So, and that's a big thing. Fertility is really big. Conditions like endometriosis, those are pretty painful conditions that us as women, we say, well, okay, I got this terrible pain, but I'm going to ignore it because I don't have insurance, or I don't have access to go see a provider. So I think for women, it's especially important to keep up with our women's health. And I think, is it at 40 that you start to have mammograms? I think it's 40.
You should be starting to have your mammograms, be seen gynecologists as soon as you are either sexually active or starting to have cycles, it is really important to be in there. And it kind of depends on your provider. Some providers will say, well, are you sexually active? If not, then don't worry about it. However, the older you're getting, and if you're noticing your cycles or different or off or things like that, it may be in your best interest to go get checked out and just see what's going on with you. And let me lead to our men, because I do want to ask you about this. Who do you see taking more advantage of health insurance, men or women?
Um, if I had to weigh out my client base, I think I have more men than I do women. And I'm going to lean towards men typically keep themselves insured all year. Women sacrifice that.
I find that fascinatingly interesting. The reason why I say this, men are horrible about going to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you'll keep the insurance, but you won't make the appointments, usually unless someone else in their lives make them go.
True. And I can only speak for my clients as I sit and think, because I have a lot of clients in professions that work outside. So I think they've probably had some typical things in the past, like heat stroke or other issues. But yeah, I do have a lot of men, and I have a lot of families.
A lot of families. Okay.
There's a lot of families.
So with family insurances, I know you've mentioned like doing 2 different type of insurances for kids and things, but are there some not giving plans? We're not going to put any plan on a pedestal, but is there some better benefits of having the Affordable Care Act insurance for a family versus not?
So, even with that, I had a family that I recently enrolled, and I again, I have no opinions for anything, but they did not vaccinate their children, and they were about 17 years old.
Okay.
And I had 2 different plans. I had a plan for the parents, and then I had a plan for the children, because coincidentally, their provider was actually one of the providers in the marketplace. So you'd be surprised how big the marketplace is, that, I would never have expected a pediatrician who doesn't vaccinate to be on the list. And I was shocked and said, well, here we go. We're going to tailor this to you. So everything with your insurance is based on your needs. And you may not think there's a provider in there, but shockingly, you may find your provider.
Now that's impressive, because I deal with a lot of families who choose, for whatever reason, not to vaccinate their children, or they have special or, needs for religious purposes and things. And it is hard normally to find a provider. So that's really amazing to know that you can go here. You are able to find those things that you need and make it work for you.
Right.
That is awesome. I think a lot of people, and why I wanted to have you, is so many times people really don't understand insurance and really don't understand the need for insurance and why they should have it. And to have someone like you to be able to sit down or to give you some nuggets, it's really helpful in this, and that people to know that your providers are supposed to help you. They want to help you. Your insurance providers are supposed to do that. But I can tell you, I've had insurance off and on for years. You're the only provider I've ever dealt with who will pick up the phone and text and call or say, okay, let's look at this. Okay. What should we do? Let me say, like, say an emergency comes up and someone is uninsured and they're in the hospital. Can they get insurance during that period of time, or would they have to wait? What would that look like?
So there are plans available for emergency. And a lot of times the hospitals may try to assist you with that. And that's another place where you would find insurance agents as well. So it would all depend on your situation and the time of the year.
Okay.
and what carriers are offering. But if you wanted a private insurance, I can say that most private insurance, if you went off the exchange, I mean, you could pick up a private policy. But I really like the marketplace insurance. I have both. I have insurance and I sell insurance, and I think it's pretty equal to the quality of care because of the providers within the network.
All right. So say someone is listening to what you're saying and they're just absolutely loving everything you're saying. And it's like, I want to get into insurance. What would that look like? How do you get into being an insurance agent?
So it's a course. It's a class that you take, and then after the class, you take a test and you obtain a license. But I would always say, grab 2 years experience, put 2 years under your belt, because when you're talking about somebody's health, that's somebody's life. So you want to guide in the appropriate directions and make sure that we're coming from a right, I'm going to say righteous place. So, I've sold insurance on the phones, and I've sold insurance in person, and now I'm independent. And I have to say, I appreciate being independent, because I would never want a client to call me and say, wow, that didn't work for me when I needed it to work. So for new agents, I always say, have a couple years under your belt, know what you want to sell and who you want to sell to, and then go from there and make sure it's for your client.
Okay. So working with the company in the beginning is a good idea to get your, your feet wet and to completely understand what you're doing first.
Right.
Okay.
It is definitely a good idea to spend some time with a company.
Okay. All right. So what are certain things, if you say you wanted to be an insurance agency and you want to work for a company, what are certain things you should probably look for in that type of company?
So take your commissions. So it's working in insurance can make or break somebody, because you're assigning what is a commission to an agency, and you're hoping this agency is going to pay you your commission. But sometimes an agency will not pay a commission and actually leave you with a debt. So be very cautious to work for a very big agency. Or independently, you can always call me. So I do love the independent thing. But you want to be cautious with insurance, because you don't want to sell inappropriately and you don't want to short sell yourself.
Okay. That's really important. Let's talk about this debt piece of this. How would you get into debt selling insurance?
Well, let's say you were to sell insurance and the insurance you received a commission, and then that person dropped their insurance coverage within days. That commission is a clawback. So you have to pay that back to the insurance agencies, or to the carriers. So there are ways that you could leave yourself in debt with your commissions, especially if you were selling in the space, the Medicare space. It would be very easy to find yourself in debt if you don't know exactly what you're selling and who you're selling to, because you do lose commissions that way. So they're very strict. The state of Florida really wants to make sure that each agent is giving good information, and we are not telemarketing, and we are not phishing, and we are working for the people. That's what we're supposed to do. We are here for you.
Okay, that is amazing. So should we be leery of, because I know I'm not the only person who gets not just the calls, the texts. Like every day I can get 3 or 4 text messages about, I can give you different insurance because you're a nurse. Would you be interested in my insurance? I'm like, no, I have insurance. So, and I always give like the side eye, because I'm like, why are you texting me about my insurance? That's a little weird.
Well, so think of something that, here's what I say, and I've told my own adult kids. If somebody calls you and says, hey, we're going to give you a subsidy, we're going to give you $6,000. That's how you can weed out who's the true agent.
Okay.
Is you just ask that question, what are you giving me to sign up for insurance? And if they say, we're going to give you a subsidy, you're getting government subsidy, and you say, well, you're giving me a check, and they say, well, yeah, over the years you'll get X, Y, and Z. If they say they're giving something to you, then you always want to hang up, because
Okay.
it's not a gift. It's not a gift when you have to pay it back. So keep that in mind. When telemarketers call and they offer everything under the sun, it's not a gift when that gift gets paid back at the end of the year.
Ooh, you're just throwing some serious gems today.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really important that people know that like nothing in life is free. I don't care what you say, everything costs something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good way to do about it. It's like, do you want to pay it now or do you want to pay it in the back end?
Right. And that's how you know your good agent from your rough agent is, are they going to explain to you what this is? How do they explain your monthly subsidy? Like, do you understand? You could pay $10 and not pay at the end of the year.
Okay. I think that's really good to know. When it comes to like, I know that everybody's looking for insurance and things like that, but you mentioned your adult children. Were you able to did you have to sit down with them and teach them how to get their own insurance?
So like I just did it for them. So
I bet.
I'm one of those moms, right? Like, I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to do it, and then we'll figure it out later.
So, because I'm getting to the age of my kid, my oldest is getting up there and it's going to go to college and all those things next year. And I was like, oh, you're going to need to have big girl insurance. What is that going to look like? You're going to have to pick your own insurance and how to navigate that. And I feel like sometimes as an adult, it's hard enough because we're like, we don't know it. But with kids, how do you get, I'm not going to say kids, we're going to call them young adults.
Okay.
To understand, like, these are things you need for insurance, because a lot of them are, I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't need this.
Right. So I could tell you my young adult is going to be 25 in September, and he's upset because we've been covering him till he's 24. So parents cover, so you can cover your children, your young adults, until they're 24 years old. And then they'd have to go on their own and find a policy, but they would find a policy the same way anybody else does. You would call an agent or sign up online.
So what if they have like kid care? They can stay on that till they're 24, or do they have to do something different?
So I believe, and don't quote me, you have to read your Florida Kid Care. So read Florida Kid Care CHIP, because I don't represent Florida Kid Care CHIP. But
okay, I love that. That was a really safe answer. You're like, read your policies.
Read it. Yes, I don't represent them.
No, that's good to know, though, because it's important when you do sign up for different types of insurance for yourself and your kids. You want to know those policies, because I know I've been asked that question before. I'm like, I don't do insurance. I don't know. It's not what I do. I don't know with that piece of it.
Right.
About what they have and what they don't have. But Samantha, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing your knowledge with everybody. It was just absolutely amazing to have you and to really break down healthcare insurance for us the way you've done today.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And then to my guests, I want to tell you, you're loved, you're seen, you're heard. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Get you some health insurance if you don't have any, because you never know when you're going to need it. So to everyone, I hope you have an amazing night, an amazing day, because, when you see this is going to be the morning time. And you guys keep on to the next time. Thanks for joining us on According to Courtney. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.